All right, it's about that time. We kicked off our B-Movie Banter Ode to Horror with Kane Hodder back in October for our Halloween broadcast. And tonight we match it with Bill Moseley. This guy's done films with Rob Zombie, as we've talked about with The House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, as well as the Halloween remake, Texas Chainsaw 3D, Army of Darkness, and Repo, the Genetic Opera. So a true star of the genre, no question. We're excited as hell to score him for a Q&A, and we're sure you're going to enjoy our conversation as well. So what the hell am I making you wait for? Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Moseley. First of all, welcome to B-Movie, and thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's my pleasure.
All right. I saw an interview you'd done where you discussed the foolishness of the MPAA rating system regarding Rob Zombie's effort to keep a scene with Sherry Moon Zombie in House of a Thousand Corpses for an R rating, but NC-17 kept coming into the conversation unless Zombie adjusted the scene in terms of the number of stabs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think it really comes down to how arbitrary any kind of rating system is. That is a classic example that somehow, some way, 5 stabs is an R, and more than that is an X or whatever the rating is after an R. Mm-hmm. It does get pretty random. I mean, I think there's. I guess you've got to give the MPAA credit for trying, but of course there is no set standard. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of flying by the seat of their pants, trying to, protect young viewers from unseemly material. So mm-hmm. I don't know, it's very subjective, and it's nothing that's ever hindered me from standing 7 or 8 times.
We just talked about it with Rob Zombie. You've worked with him numerous times and noted that once he told you art's not safe. What's the atmosphere and attitude like on a zombie set?
Certainly, first and foremost, Rob is very much in control. So, and he's a pretty mellow king, but he is the king. So mm-hmm. That's kind of the first order of business. The other thing that, and Rob, the movies I've worked with him on, he has also been the writer. So, mm-hmm. It's actually great to work with a director who knows exactly what he wants. Mm-hmm. And, so there's something about a director who knows what he or she wants that is consoling to an actor. It's kind of like babies like to be tucked in tights. And as an actor, it's always nice to know that the person who's giving you orders knows exactly what they want, and that when you do it right, they're happy to move on. And the other thing I'll say about Rob's sets are Rob is also, he's been on the road, I'm sure, probably 3/4 of his adult life,
right?
Touring with his band and bands. And one of the things that Rob knows is that the secret to every happy production, whether it's music or movies, is good catering.
Oh.
And, Rob always has, the times I've worked with Rob, there's always been, very good food. Mm-hmm. And that, when it's 4 or 5 in the morning and you've worked all day and night, and it's cold and you're sad and hungry, there's nothing like a good food to give you the incentive to give it that final 4 or 5%.
Mm-hmm. As someone who does a lot of horror films, do you find it difficult to discover individuality and subtlety in characters that are distinctive enough to where you don't feel as though you've played that character before?
Oh, never. It's always different. Mm-hmm. It's basically what I like to do is to approach whatever part it is. I like to read the script a bunch of times so that it becomes very much a known reality. And I find that so many things contribute to the differences in character. I mean, first and foremost, it's the story. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, it's the dialogue. But so much goes into, different costumes and makeup, mm-hmm. The other characters, the situations. If you just basically are in the moment, to kind of use an acting cliche, but it's really important. And when you're in the moment really defines how you react to things, how you look at things, and that's why it always comes out different.
Mm-hmm. I asked that because I've seen that you've said that you didn't know if you had Otis Driftwood in you from House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. At the time, what caused you to feel or perceive that Otis wasn't lurking inside you somewhere?
Well, I've never been a hard ass. I like to think I am. We all do, I think. But we all, a lot of, certainly for me, I always like to think that I'm a tough guy and that I can, handle, violent situations and scary, crazy stuff. That I'm a red hot lover, and all those are basically, fantasies, not uncommon.
Right.
But, in terms of actually, having that reality in my life, I mean, I couldn't be farther away from it. I'm certainly not a red-hot lover, in the sense of Otis, women wanting to, have Otis drown them in a, bucket of gasoline. I don't think I've ever had that kind of romantic appeal. And also, I've just never been a badass. I'm not a particularly violent guy, and, I don't think I would, that's not where I would go in reality. So I've always related a lot more to Chop Top, kind of skippy and, kind of cuckoo and funny and crazy. But then to have Rob see Otis in me, the more I look back on Otis, the more flattered I am. And it took me a while. I mean, he, again, going back to his vision and, writer-director, he saw that and, and again, slowly but surely walked me to Otis. And once I got to Otis, it was a lot of fun to play him. But, I don't think when I wake up every morning, I don't think I am the devil and I'm here to do.
That Driftwood performance was so calmly menacing, especially with the Devil's Rejects. Makes me wonder if you've ever gone to a darker place while filming where it took you back a little bit that you housed that kind of anger and emotion.
No, not really. Again, it's about being in the moment, and it's about giving yourself to the story. There was nothing in my life where I could go back to it and, access it and say, this will fuel, this particular scene. It's interesting, too, because the toughest scene for me in the movie at Devil's Rejects was the scene with the Kahiki Punk's motel room with Priscilla Barnes and Lou Temple and Baby and Jeffrey Lewis. And I guess there was a poor dead Brian Posehn on the floor. But in that scene, that was the art is not safe scene. And what was interesting was that scene begins with Otis being bored. Because we've been waiting for a couple of hours. Captain Spaulding still hasn't showed up. We're out of nowhere. What's going on? You got, I'm trying to think of, you got Buck Owens on TV with his little spangled cowboy suit. And so that scene was very interesting because a lot of times if you have like psycho scenes like that in horror movies, a lot of times it's, somebody jumping out of a closet, yelling and screaming, stabbing, raping, chainsaws, whatever's going on. So there's a certain energy of, jumping out at people or already coming from an angry, fired up place. In that scene, that had to start out, that wasn't a run and jump, that was standing still. It was like, come on, Mama, take them off, come on, I'm bored. And the fact that it ended up kind of escalating, not kind of, but ended up escalating into, this very sexy, crazy, frightening scene between Priscilla and me. That was really, I owe so much of that. Certainly Rob wrote the scene, so, that created the arena. But I owe so much of that to Priscilla Barnes. I thought she was just amazing in it. And the way she played the scene was very brave. And, it encouraged me to be brave, too. So we both basically stepped on the tightrope and really went for it. And that's the excitement of acting. Yes, it was tough personally because that's not the kind of behavior I do normally.
Right.
But it makes acting very special and very much of an art form when there are those times, and they don't happen all that much, where you just are in those crazy moments of just letting go of, I guess it's a leap of faith, and just letting go of your constraints, your personality, your anchors, and just letting go and just, flying with the scene. And that was a pretty amazing scene, especially when you consider that we probably did at least a dozen takes of that scene.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
If you think about it, you've got my close-up, you've got Priscilla's close-up, you've got just the two of us, a two-shot, you've got a master, which includes the other characters sprawled on the bed. You've got a shot. They had one camera at one point looking down from the ceiling on us. So you've got all these different angles. Mm-hmm. You get a couple of takes usually from each camera. So, you put it all together, and we did that 12 times.
Jeez. You were once a journalist for Psychology Today, and now as an actor, you experienced perspectives from both sides of the ledger. So I'm very curious to hear your take on this. We've already discussed that you're very active in the horror genre, and though this is a topic that gets debated time and again following tragedies, with the recent stabbing incident involving the 12-year-olds in Wisconsin and their fascination or obsession with the creepypasta Wiki Slender Man character, how do you feel when media, be it film, music, literature, internet, gets mentioned or occasionally outright blamed as the potential catalyst for such acts?
It's interesting. I'm sure, there's been lots written about that, the psychology of people who commit crazy crimes, and sometimes, it's funny because very seldom, and I'm certainly sensitive to it. I don't want to encourage anybody to stab their 12-year-old classmate. Mm-hmm. But you don't really that often hear about people that were horror fans committing crimes like that. Right. One of the things that I find out now with the 12-year-old, they're on their own. If they thought somehow that was going to please Slender Man, I think I read a little bit about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like saying, I remember when my older daughter was pretty young, maybe a little even younger than 12, and somehow she'd had a sleepover and had seen Candyman. Mm-hmm. And she was very frightened about, looking in the mirror, and there was something kind of compelling her to look in the mirror and say Candyman, but not say it 3 times and spin or whatever you're supposed to do there. Right. I remember actually one night, and she was probably about 9 or 10, she called out in the middle of the night. I woke up and heard her calling, Daddy, and knew that she was scared and troubled, something was going on. So I jumped out of bed and came into her room, and I said, what's going on? She said, I had a bad dream. And I said, well, what was the dream? She said, no, I don't want to say. I said, come on, honey, you got to tell me what was the dream. Mm-hmm. She said, I dreamed about Candyman. Mm. And I said, Candyman? I said, honey, your father is Chop Top, and Chop Top kicks Candyman's ass. And it was so funny because, it was in the moment, it was like professional, jealousy or whatever it was. Like I was, kind of outraged. What? Come on. And it was so funny because she looked at me and it, like, she got that. It was like, oh, yeah. And she kind of looked at me and I, kissed her on the forehead and said, go back to sleep. And she dropped right off. I mean, that seemed to work for her. What I also find is that, a lot of times I do a lot of horror conventions, and I meet literally thousands of horror fans, every year. Mm-hmm. And I would have to say, in terms of, sometimes I go to conventions that are more pop culture, so I see more, science fiction, and I see fantasy fans, and different kinds of kind of genre fans. And I would have to say that the horror fans are the coolest and most grounded fans that I've ever seen in terms of a group. Mm-hmm. And that one of the things that happens with the horror films is that they basically, all of our nameless fears get played out very specifically with good characters and bad characters and scary situations. And a lot of that is really cathartic, that it really gets a lot of that stuff out of people, that they get real specific with they might be fans of Chop Top or Otis or Repo or Freddy Krueger or whatever is going on there. I think that it's really, I think horror movies and the horror tales around the campfire or whatever the history was has always served a very good purpose in society. So that if you say that some 12-year-olds who thought they were going to please some fictional character on the internet, that somehow justifies stabbing, I doubt that. I mean, that certainly, that sounds like a good excuse, but the behavior really sounds like something that was planned or plotted. That had roots that had nothing to do with Slender Man.
Well, on to a lighter subject here. Being from Minnesota, you can imagine how thrilled I was to find out you're a White Sox fan, perusing your Twitter feed like that. But I'm just wondering, with somebody who has such a hectic schedule, do you get to take in many ball games, radio, TV, or even just going to the ballpark?
I usually follow the White Sox on the computer, on my laptop. But actually, just Wednesday night, I took the family, my girlfriend and our 15-year-old daughter, to Dodger Stadium. The White Sox are in town for a rare interleague play game, a set of games, and we got to the ballpark. Adam Dunn hit a home run. Lurie Garcia hit his first major league home run. John Danks threw a two-hitter, and we got out of there with a 2-1 victory. So I'm totally fired up.
I've always liked going on the road to cheer for my team, but I'm just wondering, what's it like when you go on the road as a White Sox fan into Dodger Stadium?
You know what? It turned out we were very lucky because I got seats online, and it turned out that I was sitting right next to in a cluster of about 5 White Sox fans.
Oh, nice.
So we were surrounded by blue, but we called ourselves White Sox Island, and continued to cheer. We weren't disrespectful, but we certainly cheered when Adam Dunn went deep, and we cheered when Yasiel Puig made outs. I am still mourning the Blackhawks loss to the LA Kings. So.
Right. You'd been in a band with Buckethead called Cornbugs and sang in Repo, the Genetic Opera. How did you come to be involved with music, and are you still active in that field at all?
I'm not that active. I am actually. I for the last 20-plus years, I take a singing lesson every Wednesday in the Valley here in Los Angeles. So that I always do. And, a singing lesson is good whether you're singing or just to keep the speaking voice in, it's kind of like the gym for the speaking voice. So that's good. I'm still trying to do a CD with Phil and Selmo of obviously Pantera and Down and a bunch of other bands. Phil and I are pals, and I keep bugging him to try to do a CD called Phil and Bill. And, so far he hasn't given me the green light, but I keep pestering him. Working with Buckethead was really just a dream come true, just in terms of artistic collaboration. I still consider him the world's greatest guitar player. And when we got together, he was a big Chop Top fan. So when we got together, it was kind of love at first sight. And there's a great collaboration in terms of what he would play would inspire me, and what I would sing or say would inspire him. So it was a wonderful mutual effort, and that resulted in about 5 CDs worth of Cornbugs material. And then after Buckethead and I moved on, I ended up with working with a guy named Ronnie Sharon. That's R-A-N-I, Ronnie, S-H-A-R-O-N-E, and he has a band with his brother Gil called Stolen Babies. And Ronnie's a bass player in that band, but he's a great all-around musician. And we got together and put out an album called Spider Mountain. It's the name of the band, and the album is called No Way Down. And so I keep doing it. I just I do things. I just worked with a band called Generic Christ, and I was on my buddy Ogre's, one of his solo albums called Devils in My Details. And so I'm always up for it whenever there's an opportunity to sing. Of course, I was also in Devil's Carnival, which is kind of the son of Repo, and as the magician in Devil's Carnival. So I'm always ready to, burst into song.
Mm-hmm. Our original B-Movie Banter guest was your friend and horror icon Kane Hodder for last October's Halloween broadcast. So I picked his brain, and he suggested I ask you about the time the two of you simultaneously choked a fan, your hand under his.
Yes, Kane really takes that choking thing seriously.
Yes, he does.
I think we were at a convention. I think it was maybe Indianapolis Horror Hound or Days of the Dead, one of those. But it was in Indianapolis, and I had a table next to Kane. I didn't really know him that well back then, so that must have been maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a fan said, "Hey, can I get you guys both to choke me?" So I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." And so, because I'd seen Kane choking fans, I hadn't really paid close attention to it. And so we got up with this, smiling guy between us, and Kane said, "You go first, and I'll put my hands on yours." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." And so I wrapped my hands around this guy's neck, and then Kane started. Kane's a big guy, a weightlifter, very strong, and he started to squeeze really hard. And the guy's smile, our victim's smile, was kind of turning into his eyes started to bulge, and he looked like he was in trouble. And I, was trying to stop, but Kane was so strong, and I realized not only was Kane going to kill this guy with my hands, but that my fingerprints, and probably, I would be held responsible for this guy's murder. And I was going, stop. So I was panicking. The guy was panicking because he was losing consciousness. And I was thinking, my God. And Kane had this weird, diabolical grin. I mean, you could just tell from his eyes that he really was, he wasn't going to stop until this guy was dead. And I don't really know. I mean, obviously he did, and the guy didn't die. But that was the last time. I said, you know what? That's it, man. I'm never doing that again. So from then on, when anybody asks for us both to joke, I say, we'll do it one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Kane Hodder, you did a project with him titled Old 37, which I'm very intrigued to see. Can you share with our viewers a little bit what that flick's all about, when we can expect to have it be released?
Old 37 is basically, it's a story wherein Kane and I play brothers. We've been raised by a crazy Vietnam vet father who was very mean and abusive and violent and really tortured us both. And what we have done is basically take, our father used to drive around in a beat-up ambulance called Old 37, and or the number 37. And what we've learned to do is to show up, to listen to the police scanner, and to show up whenever there is an accident, and get there before the real ambulance. And I can't really tell you what we do to the accident victims, but I can tell you that we do have a wood chipper ambulance. So we were laughing on set, calling it Obamacare, and basically we just, pretty much grind up a bunch of people. The movie we shot was a couple of Decembers ago on Long Island, and it's taken a tortuous and torturous journey in post-production. A lot of times what will happen is, low-budget independent films, horror films, what I know about, sometimes they run out of financing during the production itself, and there isn't much left for post-production, and then sometimes another pitfall might be distribution, trying to figure out the right people to sell it to or to get to distribute the movie. And I'm not really sure exactly what's happened with those 37 because it has been a year and a half, but I did just ask my manager, Judy Fox, just yesterday, what's up with Old 37, and she was going to find out. And then on Twitter, I got a tweet from Old 37, the movie, saying, almost done, can't wait for you to see it. So I'm very encouraged by that. My Twitter, by the way, is @ChopTopMosley, and that's also my Instagram, so if anybody wants to come over and see all my crazy tweets, they're certainly welcome.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my final question. If anybody, hey, any viewers out there want to get a hold of any of your CDs, T-shirts, possibly even send a request for an autograph, that kind of thing, how would they go upon doing so? Can you talk a little bit about your website?
Yes, you can always go to my website of many years called ChopTopsBBQ.com, ChopTopsBBQ.com. And there's a lot of fun stuff, pictures, games. There's even something called Chop Top's Crazy Piano, which is a picture of my mouth, my Chop Top mouth, and each of the bent and discolored teeth is like a key on a piano. So you can play my teeth with your mouse and your cursor, and that's a lot of fun. And also I sell, pictures and signed scripts and DVDs. You can also get those off eBay. I think there's a Chop Top's Barbecue presence on eBay. Because, a lot of times I've gone on eBay and looked up my name and pictures, and, it's sad and kind of frightening how many fakes there are.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's another thing to do. If you want a real autographed Bill Moseley, picture, DVD, or whatever, definitely go to ChopTopsBarbecue.com. Because I actually don't, contrary to popular opinion, I don't have assistants or little elves, filling my orders. I do it myself. So you're going to get the real deal. So,
nice.
And I love social media. As I said, especially Twitter. I'm a big Twitter guy. Mm-hmm. And so at Chop Top Moseley, check it out.
All right, Bill Moseley. We've been working on this interview since March, and it was definitely worth the wait. Thanks a lot for chatting with us. I appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. I love Minnesota. I used to go to camp up in International Falls.
Oh, all right. Nice.
Yep. That's way up there.
Yeah.
It was a camp called Camp Kuchiching, which is Indian for something. I'm not even sure what it means. But it was up in Rainy Lake, and it was a canoe camp. So, I love Minnesota. As I say, I'm from Illinois originally, and, Wisconsin, Minnesota, two of my favorite states. So thanks for thinking of me, and, go Twins, I guess. So, no.
Wow. Coming from a White Sox fan, that is quite a statement.
Exactly. I don't want to go too far.
Right. All right. Well, thanks a lot for talking with us, Bill. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care.